everyone. My name's Sharzad. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, I am interviewing a high schooler named Grace to talk about all things social media. Enjoy. Hi, Grace. My name's Sharzad. Thank you so much for chatting with me today. I'm so excited to talk to you. We have a mutual friend, Teddy, who set us up. I'm really excited about that. So how old are you, Grace, and where do you live?
I'm 17. I live in Culver City, Los Angeles, California.
I used to live there.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I lived right by Sony.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So I would love to talk to you. I've talked to a couple other teenagers about your experience with social media. I'm sort of looking to explore to see if social media is as harmful for teenagers as I think it is. I always think about myself as a teenager having social media and I get a knot in my stomach. So let's start with, when did you get your own account?
I had a phone for a while, but my parents were like, you don't get social media till you're around in 8th grade. So I got it like 13, 14, around like 3 to 4 years ago. And I just started with like Instagram and Musical.ly, which was like TikTok before.
Pre-TikTok, yeah.
Yeah, pre-TikTok. And when I was younger, it was a different kind of look around social media because it was really like, I was like strictly following my parents' rules because like you get scared. Like there's a lot of like strangers online and the internet. So when I was young, it was mainly just like me like talking to my friends on Instagram, almost more like as a messages app was my use for it. So that's when I first got it.
What did your parents say the dangers of social media were?
It was a lot. It was like just like cyberbullying, a lot of like creepy old men online, and just kind of a lot of like the people are like tracking you. There's hackers everywhere, and like you have to be very careful about like what you put out there because it can come back to you in like 20 years, and that's like scary. I mean, that's not like something you don't want your one thought when you're in 11-year-old, 13-year-old to haunt you for the rest of your life. So I think that's kind of scary. Yeah.
I'm glad your parents talked to you about that. Yeah. I think that's like a really positive step just to have good communication. Some people's parents never tell them anything about social media. So I think that's good. Did you feel like you had any traumatic or dangerous or uncomfortable, weird, awkward experiences with social media? And if so, could you share?
Not when I was younger, but like more around when I was online and like COVID and all, because I think for me, it was like, I was just online all the time. I got more curious and I kind of forgot like the like dangers of social media because it was becoming normalized for me. And like, it's just like, there's this like Discord and I just like joined a group chat and all. And it was totally fine at first, but then they would just say very like odd, like sexual type stuff that just made me feel uncomfortable and not very like wanted because these are like people online and like it just was an uncomfortable situation where I personally didn't feel safe. And I was able to like get away from that situation very quickly. And I didn't really like tell a lot of people about it because it just wasn't something that like I wanted people to know. But then like it still had an effect on me for a long time because it's just like, you're just being online, you think these people are your friends, and then they start saying very vulgar things that make you uncomfortable. And it's just like not what you picture social media as, this all like you're friends with everyone type situation.
I'm so sorry that happened. You were stuck at home during COVID and you just had a little bit more time to spend on social media because of course the world felt like it was ending and everybody was on social media more. Yeah. And you found yourself in like, what kind of an app has chat rooms? Like, I don't know about chat rooms.
So there's this online app called Discord that like Discord, a lot of people, a lot of people, I was going to new school, and it's basically for like when you're playing like video games, you go on these like chat rooms with people who like the same games as you. And it's a place where you're just like having friends with these gamers, or that's what is the idea or what I thought it was. But it there's a lot of the people on there aren't as like friendly, just trying to play games. And it's very revolved around the fact that like you're meeting new people, and a lot of the times these new people aren't people you know in real life. And I think that's like one of the issues around it.
So do
Yeah.
you think some like weird old dude was preying on you the whole time? Is that kind of what you're telling me?
Yeah. It was just,
And
I mean, I don't know their age, but it's just weird.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like you got a weird vibe because somebody was making sexually explicit comments towards you and you thought you were
Yeah.
friends with them.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Did you ever tell your parents or
No.
eventually?
Eventually I kind of had a conversation with like my like therapist about it, and that was kind of a good place to get it out and kind of settle it. But I never talked to my parents about it. I just removed the app and like had to like take it away from myself, you know.
How did you have a therapist from school or just your own personal therapist?
My own personal therapist, and I'll just, yeah.
How do you feel about social media now going forward, knowing that there are creepy people out there that are trying to essentially like sexualize you?
For me, I learned one thing is like that app is just not for me. But like when it comes to more like Instagram and like TikTok and Snapchat, like I'm only going to present what I want to present. I'm not going to go talk to random old people. Like one thing about the internet is you could literally post a picture of your face and people will find a reason to sexualize it or make it something that it's not. And I think that like I can't control that, but like I'm going to set my personal boundaries. Like I'm not going to like interact with these strangers and let them have that advantage and all. And you kind of just got to ignore, like you get creepy DMs all the times and like just bad stuff, but you have to personally know what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with. And I think for me, it was just setting those boundaries that like, I'm just not going to chat with these people I don't know. And it's just like that's something that I can't, do.
So you're not on Discord anymore, which I actually had never heard of before. So thanks for telling me about that. I will definitely stay away.
Yeah.
But do you feel like Instagram and TikTok are a little bit safer, or do you still feel like you can be victim to the creepers out there?
Yeah, you can totally be a victim to the creepers out there. I mean, I think Instagram and TikTok are a little different because their whole purpose isn't like talking with these strangers. It's more like you're just posting your life and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a kind of a different platform. But I do think there's also like with posting your life and like all that, there's a different type of negative stuff that go farther than creepy old men DMing you and stuff. And I think that can be very unsafe too. But I think it's also just about balance and understanding it.
How do you feel like you've created balance? Because you're super young. You said you're 17. So some people it takes them a really long time to learn balance. And I have to remind myself of my own healthy habits and my own balance with social media on a pretty much daily basis. So how do you feel like you figured that out?
Honestly, not fully figured out yet.
Right.
Like it's still something I'm like not totally great at. But for me, it kind of starts with just like realizing that like life's not all about likes. I think at first I had quantized my like self-worth to just a single like number. And I think having that balance is taking away and realizing that you can get much more life in person and being a good person and not like just like thinking about this online platform. That was like a personal balance moment for me. And then also just taking breaks. Like right now, I don't think Instagram or TikTok's on my phone because I was on it a lot and I started seeing that pattern. And it's okay to have those times where it's like 6 hours a day. Like, what are you doing? But like realizing that and choosing to change, I think that is what creates balance, and saying, wow, I've been on it a lot yesterday, why don't I just delete it and take a day where I just don't go on it? And I think that it may seem drastic at the time, but it can be a step towards balance. And yeah.
I think that's wonderful. And by the way, I do that all the time. I go, oh, I did a little too much yesterday. Let's take a break for a day. Or, do you think your parents have helped create boundaries for yourself now? Are they on social media? What do they know about it? Talk to me.
One thing about my parents is like, they know all the things that like you're supposed to say, like, don't do this and all. But it's kind of like they don't really know much about the apps. And I feel like this is a lot for like a lot of people's parents and a lot of stuff. And it's just like, like, oh, social media is bad, but like you don't really know what's how much time your kid's spending on it, and like they don't have too many rules in place beyond like just don't do this. So like they kind of don't have too much like control and like how much time I'm on social media or like what I'm posting. And like they don't even follow me, but like I think it's kind of just a mutual trust that like I understand like what not to do and what to do, and that's kind of how our relationship works. No.
Are you a junior in high school?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a lot of conversation at your high school around staying safe online? Are people allowed to have their phones there? Like, I'm just sort of curious as to like what's happening on high school campuses in America in regards to social media. Like, can you have it in your class? Do teachers talk about boundaries? Do they talk about bullying? Do they talk about predators on apps? What's that like?
Honestly, I have not experienced a lot of that in high school. I think if something happens, then that's when they'll talk about it. But unless like I don't know, there's like ship accounts and stuff like that. If that happens, then they'll talk about it. But they don't just have like seminars about it or any discussions about it. I did experience a lot of that in middle school. And like in middle school, we couldn't have our phones. We were like had all these social media talks, how to be safe online. But it feels like when you're in high school, it's kind of just like you've been doing this in middle school. You should know what to do. We're allowed to have our phones in class. And it's kind of just like they're not very much involved with what we're doing online.
Wait, you're allowed to have your phone like out in class?
Well, we're allowed to have our phone in class. It just depends on the teacher. Mm-hmm. But like, even if the teacher says no, a lot of people are still on their phones. And I mean, some people like enforce like buckets and all as like a thing, but even so, people still find a way to sneak their phones in. So It's kind of like not a very controlled situation.
Do you feel like because of the incident with the creepy predator that you dealt with, that you had any like mental health issues or anxiety or depression from being sort of a victim to something like that?
To be honest, for me, I think I'm kind of just like, what's it called? It's like you expect this stuff on social media. Mm-hmm. So when it happens to you, it doesn't really like affect you. Like, I don't know. It just feels like kind of almost like numbness just because I'm so used to like hearing stories of people when you just, for me, it's just, I block it and then I move on. But like, I feel like it should be like a less normalized thing. Like this shouldn't be something I'm like expecting from just talking to someone. And so I think what does have an effect, like when I was online 24/7, I really lost my ability to socialize for a while, and just like COVID and like having my only perception of what life outside of my house was being my phone. It created a lot of anxiety, a lot of depression, just because I thought the only thing that mattered was my own online presence and other people's like online presence.
Yeah. So you were saying you were getting like desensitized.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get that. And I know, I think COVID really did a number on everybody. So many people were on their phones way more than normal and just seeing trauma and tragedy just on their phones constantly. Do you feel like social media is dangerous?
Yes, I think social media has its dangers. And I think like, especially to a young mind, it can be very like just something that's unknown territory and all. So with going into unknown thing and thinking like, it's all good, it's very dangerous. But I think there is some positives to social media, and it's not all dangers. It's kind of one of those things in life where it's like there's bads and there's goods, and you just got to choose if you really appreciate the goods that you're willing to like take the bads. But like it is pretty dangerous. Like,
do you have advice for parents who might be listening about how to manage teenagers who want to have access to social media and have, their own accounts?
Research what app your teenagers are going into. Because my mom, when I was younger, she had to like approve all the apps. I just told her a quick summary that didn't really tell what the app was. And she was like, oh yeah, you could get it. But like, do research, because there are some apps out there that just aren't safe and that shouldn't be done. Also, follow your kids on social media. Like, not to be just like overprotective, but you should want to see what your kid's doing and just make sure they're being safe. And just like, also realizing that like people are going to make mistakes, and like, don't treat social media as just this horrible thing, but treat it as something that you have to like take with goods and with bad, and don't like totally shut your kid off from it, but just kind of teach them like with all the goods there is dangers.
I think that's really great advice. What about for like young teenagers? You're like an older teenager, so you're kind of seasoned now, being 17. But what about like young teenagers? Any like advice you'd want to give them so they don't get into a situation like you got into?
Kind of know who you're talking to online. Like, I know it's repetitive, you've heard it before, but like if you don't know who you're talking to, like make sure you only talk to people you know in real life, because it can be really scary and it cannot be a good situation. And also make sure that you like know your own self-worth, your own self-value before you start putting so much value in social media, which can be really hard. But just know like social media is not the whole world.
Yes, louder for the people in the back. Well, I don't have any other questions for you today, but I really appreciate meeting you, Grace, and I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too. Bye. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode with Grace. As always, I encourage you to check out the Organization of Social Media Safety website. Take the free course so you can learn all about how to keep your kids safe online. All right, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.